Hi everyone, it is Melanie with Travel Light here. I have just returned home from walking across Spain on the Camino de Santiago. I'm here with my co-host Holly, who will be helping me out with this video. And this video is all about packing. So I made a packing video before I left of all the stuff that I was bringing on the Camino. And I promised that I would do a follow-up video to really let you guys know what are the items that I loved having. So just things that I would never leave home without if I were to do the Camino again. And then some things that I could have left behind. So this video is going to be really awesome. If you want, go back and watch the first video I made. So you kind of have some context for the items that I'm talking about here. That's the video where I went really in depth about what I was bringing. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So when I started the Camino and I went to the pilgrim's office in Saint Jean Pied de Port, I weighed my backpack and it weighed 19 pounds and that had 1.5 liters of water in it. So my base weight for my backpack was a little under 16 pounds without water, just so you kind of know how much all this stuff weighs. Now I want to talk about what I loved having on the Camino. So these are items that if I do another Camino, which I'm sure I will absolutely be bringing all of these things with me again. The first one is, sorry Holly, my water bladder. So this goes in your backpack and you can drink while you're walking. So I've heard some people say, oh, I got rid of my bladder because it was heavy. This is not a heavy item and it keeps you hydrated while you're walking on the trail. So this was priceless for me to have out there. And then my sandals. So I'm not like specifically attached to these sandals, but you do want to bring a pair of sandals in addition to your hiking shoes or boots, whatever you bring that you're hiking in. Because as soon as you get to the albergues, you will remove your shoes and put on your sandals and then wear these for the rest of the evening. So something that is lightweight and comfortable. These are actually like a little bit heavy and they're getting really old too. So I'll probably end up replacing these with something like Crocs, something that's a little more lightweight for future trips. And my KUHL cloth. This is awesome. Ladies, this is for when you need to pee on the trail and you don't want to use toilet paper and you don't want to carry toilet paper and you definitely don't want to leave toilet paper laying around the trail. So you use your KUHL cloth and then rinse it out every night with a little bit of soap and hang it to dry. I use this every day and I love it. I take it on all of my hiking trips. My platypus water bottle. This thing sparks a lot of questions from people because it looks kind of funny when it's like filled up and sitting on the table. But I was really glad to have this. I used it every single day. This is another one of my items I'm glad I brought. My backpack. This is an ultra light backpack. It packs up really, really tiny. And I would fill up my water, have that in there, and then I would just be, this would be like the bag hanging around the albergues, waiting for dinner, whatever I was doing, that I would have my personal items with me. This is one of the most clutch items that I took on the Camino, and I'm so glad that I did because I had never used silicone earplugs before. The brand is called Max, and I got these on Amazon. And I had never used them before. I brought them because a friend recommended them, but they were a lifesaver. I didn't use them for like the first week. I don't know why. I was resistant to it. I wanted to like sleep with my AirPods in to try to block the sound. But once I started using these, it was a game changer for my sleep. They block out all noise, so much so that the only issue with them is that I couldn't hear my alarm when it was going off. So that is the trade-off of using earplugs that are so good is you can not really hear your alarm. But these saved me for sleeping. So highly recommend silicone earplugs. Again, the brand is Max, M-A-C-K-S. Another thing I'm really glad I brought is my eye mask. And this is like a nice eye mask. The brand is MZOO from Amazon. It's kind of cushioned and has this feature where it's like lined around the eyes so that you can like open and close your eyes without your eyelashes being kind of smushed in there. Along the Camino, sleep is really important for your recovery and your rest. So I think that having like a little bit of a nicer eye mask, which is kind of like a little bit of a luxury item when you're sleeping in a dorm full of people. So I loved having that. And then I saw a lot of debate online about bringing a spare battery pack. I ended up buying one of these on Amazon for about 30 bucks. The brand is Misso, M-I-I-S-S-O. This is the most lightweight battery pack I have ever had. Really glad I had it. I used it almost every day. And it even has like the iPhone plug built right into it. So you just plug your phone right into this little pack. And I was really glad that I had this. I am so glad I brought a toiletry bag that had a hook on it. This is a Sea to Summit brand one that I got from REI. It was just really nice to I would find a place to hook this onto, and then it just was nice to have really easy access to my toiletries, or if I was taking a shower and there wasn't really anywhere to a surface to set my stuff on, I could hang this. It's ultra light when it has nothing in it, and I was just really glad that I had this kind of fancy thing that had a hook on it. The hook is the most important part. Next, I brought 10 of these clothing pins. They're plastic ones that I got on Amazon, and I use them all the time. When I did laundry, I would bring my own pins and hang my stuff up. I used these a lot. I would recommend bringing 10 of these. They're very lightweight. And then I also brought some of the safety pins. So bring some of these because when the wool socks don't dry very well, so you'll often need to hang your wool socks off of your backpack, and if you put a little pin through them, it's perfect. Okay, last couple of things. My hanky, and I know this makes me sound like an 80-year-old man, but I love having a hanky. My nose runs a lot when it's chilly and when I'm hiking, and if you end up getting a cold, getting a little bit sick, it's really nice to just have a hanky and use it, wash it at night, hang it up to dry. It dries really fast. And I even brought 2 hankies, and I gave one to a friend when she got sick, and she was just super grateful because it's way easier than using tissues when you have to blow your nose a lot when you catch a cold. And then last item that I am super glad that I brought is this little half buff. I have a lot of buffs. I'm kind of a buff collector, and this one is my first half buff. I got this at REI a couple days before I left, and I love it because the buffs sometimes are really, I don't know, bulky. They're twice this size, and this one was just so small that it was really easy to just use as a headband. If the wind was bothering me, my hair was blowing in my face, I could just put this little guy on, and it was just a perfect double of a headband, or just to keep my neck warm in the morning. So love having a half buff. And those are all of the items that I am super glad that I brought on my Camino. So I made my first packing video, I think it was 2 days before I left for the Camino Francés. And the day before I left, I'm just looking at my evolving pile of stuff that I'm taking. And I made a couple of changes. So I wanted to start this video by telling you guys the changes I made from my previous video, the things that I said I was taking. And then I made a couple of final cuts. So here are the things that I changed from that first video. I did not take this jacket with me. This is a cool jacket. So I eliminated this. I was trying to cut down weight right before I left. So I eliminated this jacket, which is good because while it is really comfortable, it's quite heavy. So I took this out. And then I was going to bring this Cotopaxi jacket, but instead I ended up bringing this cool wind jacket, which I was glad that I have. I wore this quite a bit. It's super lightweight, blocks wind, and it has great zippered pockets. So I ended up bringing that instead of the Cotopaxi one. I removed my swimsuit, and I am very glad that I did because this would have just been me carrying around a swimsuit for a couple of months and hardly ever needing it. When I did get to Finisterre, because I continued my Camino to Finisterre, I bought a swimsuit at a cheap store for 16 euros. So I'm really, really glad I didn't bring the swimsuit because there were hardly any opportunities to swim along the Camino Francés that I saw. I was planning on bringing a poncho, and I actually ended up bringing a backpack cover and a rain jacket instead, which I was really happy with. And to be honest, it barely rained. It rained on my second day, which was from Orison to Roncesvalles. And I had a little bit of rain on that day, which was fine. The rain jacket and pack cover were great for that. And then after Saria, I think we had 2 or 3 days of rain to get to Santiago. So my total Camino was 45 days, and I think we had 3 to 4 days of rain. So the weather was pretty awesome. I removed these Noon hydration tablets just because they're pretty heavy. And I will talk a little bit later in this video about, I do wish I would have had some hydration, but just something a little more lightweight than these. I took out my Tiger Balm, which was fine. It's just a little bit heavy. And then this phone holder that I was going to take for the plane, I ended up not taking this and not needing it. So those are all the items that I changed from my first packing list video. Okay, things that I got rid of on the trail. There were not many items that I got rid of. It'll be a quick section. The first one is my hairbrush. I brought a travel-sized hairbrush, but it was, I don't know, it just had like kind of some heavy plastic on it. So after about a week, I found this comb in a hotel. It was not used. The hotel was like giving it to me. And I was like, wow, this is a lot lighter than that hairbrush I bought. So I ditched the hairbrush and I started using this comb, and it works great. And it weighs almost nothing. And then I had brought an extra iPhone charging cube. I don't know why. It was just one of those things where I was like, just in case, I'll bring this. Didn't need it and didn't want to carry it around. So I got rid of that. And then the only other thing that I got rid of were cough drops, because I brought like, I don't know, maybe 10 cough drops, and there are pharmacies everywhere in Spain. You don't need to really bring around medicine that is just a just in case kind of thing, unless it's something that's really important to your health. But if anything happens along the trail, there's pharmacies everywhere in the towns. So yeah, you don't have to worry about that. And you really don't need to be carrying around a bunch of extra medicine or cough drops or anything that's kind of like a just in case I get sick item. Here is the list of things that I wish I would have brought. One is a lighter weight towel. So I brought a lightweight microfiber towel, but I saw a lot of people along the trail who had these towels that like weighed nothing, that were super tiny. So I bought one. I didn't have it on the Camino, but I bought one and I used it for the hike that I did after the Camino. This is a Sea to Summit brand. I got it on Amazon. To be honest, this one's not quite big enough. Like, it works, but I would like a bigger size. But I would recommend getting like an ultra light towel. It just cuts out a couple of ounces, and I think they're pretty awesome. So I would have brought a different towel. This is the sleeping bag liner that I brought. This was great. It was very comfortable. It was warm. I would say there were probably about 4 nights along the trail where I stayed in places that did not provide blankets, and it was chilly. So there were probably 4 out of like 45 nights that I would have liked to have a warmer sleeping system, maybe even a sleeping bag, but I don't think that's enough to justify having like a more, like carrying more weight of a sleeping bag. I survived those nights. I used my puffy jacket, my Patagonia jacket that I had, and I put that on me. Sometimes I even put my towel across my legs for a little bit extra warmth, but I survived. So I would say that there were only a few nights that I wish I would have brought like a warmer sleeping system. There were a couple times where it would have been nice to have gloves. And that would be like the second day from Orison to Roncesvalles, since you're in the Pyrenees Mountains. It was raining and it was very chilly and my hands were freezing and I didn't have gloves. But that being said, I think there was one other day where I was like, oh, it'd be nice to have gloves right now. So I don't think that necessarily justifies carrying around gloves for that long. But if you're going at any colder part of the year, I would have brought a pair of gloves. Next is a pillowcase. I did not bring a pillowcase, but some people do. And a friend of mine on the trail brought a silk pillowcase that was very lightweight, very small, and she just really enjoyed having like a little bit of extra comfort on the trail of having her own pillowcase, because if you don't have that, you're pretty much using a pillowcase that's kind of the material of like a hairnet, which is like the sheets and the pillowcase that they give you at the refugios. They're disposable. So if you want something a little more comfortable, you may consider bringing your own pillowcase or even a silk pillowcase like my friend had. I have guidebook on my list. I did not bring a guidebook with me, but I do think it would have been cool to have a little bit more information about the places that I was visiting, the towns I was going through each day, and just having like a little something to read. But it also, you could probably find a digital book or something like that online that you don't have to carry around a physical guidebook. I did not need a guidebook for navigation at all. The navigation is very straightforward, but it would have been nice to just have a little bit more information about the history of the places that I was visiting. And next, shower flip-flops. I do wish that I would have brought a pair of super lightweight shower sandals. Now, when I showered, I would wear these shoes, but they have kind of a cloth strap. So then after my shower, I was walking around in this cloth, with this cloth strap being really wet for a couple of hours. So it would have been nice to have, like, they would have to be ultra light, but just to have the cleanliness of not having your feet on the shower floor, just in case maybe someone in there before you had some kind of foot fungus and you don't want to pick it up in the shower. So I would have brought that. And the last thing that I would have brought is electrolyte packets. A friend of mine had some really lightweight, small electrolyte packets that had, they were like, I don't remember the brand of them now, but they had like kind of a salty flavor, and they just were really good. And it was kind of like a nice treat after a long, hot day on the Camino to have some kind of electrolytes. So I would have brought those. Things that I could have lived without. So these are items that I brought that I didn't really need, but I also didn't want to get rid of them on the trail because they have some kind of value to me. So I didn't want to ditch them, but I could have completely lived without them. So one of them is a pair of socks. I ended up bringing 3 pairs of socks on the Camino. And honestly, I wore 2 of them probably 40 out of 45 days, and I could have lived without the 3rd pair. It was nice having them and knowing that, like, let's say one pair of socks is dirty, I get caught in a rainstorm, the other one gets soaking wet. That's when I ended up wearing my 3rd pair of socks. So I'm not like, dang, I wish I didn't carry these around, but I could have lived with 2 pairs of socks on the Camino. I really could have. A 3rd shirt. I brought 3 short sleeve shirts, and I could have completely made it work with 2 shirts. One of them, this one was a little bit nicer. So like when we were in the bigger towns, I was able to wear a shirt that I felt was like a little bit nicer of a town shirt instead of a hiking shirt like my other Patagonia ones. These are the other ones that I brought. But I could have lived without this shirt. And there are several places, gear shops, to buy things like another shirt. If you bring 2 shirts and you're like, damn, I wish I had like 1 more shirt, you can buy them in pretty much any of the towns, the bigger towns that you're going to. So I would start with 2 t-shirts. Buy another one if you really want to. But I feel like I carried around a shirt that I could have lived without. And then my headlamp, never used it. It's kind of one of those things that you carry around just in case you have to get a really early start for whatever reason, but I never used my headlamp. And then a packing cube. I brought 2 of these and I really only needed 1. So this was kind of just like hanging out in my backpack, and I didn't want to get rid of it because I really like these packing cubes, but I could have lived without it. So those are the things that I could have lived without. Things that I bought along the way. So there were not many items that I had to buy during my Camino, but there were a couple of toiletry items. I ran out of toothpaste, I ran out of floss, and I ran out of feminine products. So I bought all 3 of those at pharmacies along the way. And then when I started having foot pain, the doctor recommended that I get these compression socks. So I ended up buying these. And I bought these 2 little books that I found kind of in the town towards the end. And they're just like little guides to the Camino. They ask you some kind of deeper questions about your reasoning for walking the Camino and how it's changing your life. So there's one called After the Camino that's kind of like to reflect on your Camino journey after. And then this one is for during the Camino. So you open it up and it kind of gives you like a little just prompt. And so my friends and I would open this and read it to each other and then talk about what we read and kind of what it meant to us. So those were two things that I picked up along the way. And then the last thing is pole caps. So I had my trekking poles with me, but I did not have the little rubber caps on the end. I didn't have those. So I had to buy them at a shop because you're walking a lot on concrete on the Camino and the sound is annoying if you don't have the pole caps on. So there's a lot of shops luckily that sell them. But if you are bringing your own poles, make sure you bring your pole caps with you. I just have a couple final notes to wrap up this video. I wanted to talk briefly about blister care because this is a really important aspect of your Camino. If you do get blisters, you want to have the items available to take care of them. So one thing that I brought a lot of, and that these are they sell these along the Camino and they are so expensive. So get a couple packs of Compeed on Amazon. And when you get a blister or you start to feel a blister, you put this on. It's almost like a layer of skin that goes over your foot and it stays on usually for a couple of days. So I was really glad to have several packs of these when I saw the price of them in Spain. And then this pack of lamb's wool. This is my first time traveling with this. And I did not use this very often, but when I had friends who were getting blisters or having a lot of pain from blisters, I would give them a piece of this lamb's wool and they loved it. It just kind of cushions your feet and makes it a lot more comfortable. A lot of them said that it really saved them on the days when their blisters were pretty bad. And then a roll of bandage tape. I ended up giving this to a friend. She started getting some blisters on her toes and she would wrap them with this bandage tape. And she said it was like a lifesaver for her to have this. So this stuff just really comes in handy for different reasons when you're hiking. So bring a little roll of bandage tape. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is, because I didn't really know this before I started my Camino journey, is that you can pay to have your bag transported from one albergue to the next. And the price of that is about €6 per day. So after a couple of weeks when the group that I had been traveling with, my friends that I made on the Camino, after we had started getting some foot pain and some knee pain and just different things were hurting, ankles and whatnot, we decided that it would be worth it to transport a bag. So what we would do is we had this like large, it was a rice sack. And we had this big rice sack and we would each like take a couple things, bigger things out of our backpacks, put it all into one sack, and then we would pay the €6 and transport that to the next albergue. The only thing about that is that you have to know where you're going in order to have your bag transported. So if you're someone who's not making any reservations in advance, this will not work for you. But if you're someone who's making your reservations, this is a really great option to lighten your load just a little bit and to just have a more enjoyable experience. And there is no shame in transporting some stuff out of your bag. A lot of people were doing this, and it's awesome and super affordable. So that is it for my Camino packing wrap-up video. I hope this is super helpful for you. If you combine the last video that I made that really went over everything I was bringing, and then pair it with this video showing the mistakes that I made and the things that I would have done differently, or the things that I was really glad to have, I think that you have a really complete idea of what you can pack on your own Camino. So stay tuned, because I will be making more videos about just general tips for walking the Camino. And Enzo and I have another podcast video to make to kind of wrap up the end of the Camino. And I'd love to tell you guys about my experience of arriving in Santiago and then continuing to walk on to Finisterre. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And hats off to my awesome co-host, Holly.